One more video.
Namaste, everyone. Welcome to the Cārvāka podcast. This is Kushalmehra. Don't go by the color of my eyes. I've barely had time to sleep in the last 2.5, 3 days. But can I just say, I was at the G7 summit, and Trump, Israel, and Iran was the only thing that was being discussed on the sidelines. Nothing else was being discussed. Yes, eventually. There were two things. From the Indian perspective, definitely. Actually, a lot of journalists were discussing the India-Canada bit also. But this was the main thing. So as of now, I don't understand. So my first question, Abhijit, यहाँ पे मेरे को चालू करना है. Okay, Israel and Iran are fighting each other directly. That I understand. What is America's role? Official status क्या है उनका? Are they officially part of the war? Are they not part of the war? What are they doing? Trump writes big posts.
So look, Saudi Arabia has been running a budget deficit. Okay, they need the dollar to be above 80. The Emiratis will only be very happy if oil goes above 80. You think they're actually upset about what's happening? Let me ask you another question. The first wave of strikes, the Israelis announced 200 planes were involved. Now, the lowest fuel capacity, they have three fighters. F-15, which can carry about 13 tons of fuel, F-16, which carries about 8.5 tons of fuel, and F-35, which carries about 8 tons of fuel. Now, assume all of them just carried 8 tons of fuel. They need refueling. 8 into 200 is what? 1,600 tons of fuel. Israel has 14 tankers. 7 are 707s, which can offload about 50 tons at 1,000 kilometers. Another 7 are KC-130s, which can offload about 15-16 tons at 1,000 kilometers. Total क्या हुआ? लगभग 400 to 450 tons. There is a deficit, a four-fold deficit, a threefold deficit. 400 tons is what they can provide. They need to provide another 1,200 tons of fuel for all these planes to go to Tehran and come back. Who do you think has been providing all the aerial refueling? It's a simple mathematical calculation. You can go check these figures, right? So there is very clear support being provided. Look, they don't need the kind of intel support that maybe Ukraine does. But the Americans have been providing all kinds of support. You look just today, in the last 4 days, there have been about 6 flights, at least, that I've been able to count that have landed in Tel Aviv, cargo flights carrying ammunition, equipment, and things like that. So they are absolutely backing the Israelis, but they won't do it very openly because they want to make it seem as if it's Israel versus Iran, which it is, because Israel took all the risk. Israel has gotten away with all the glory.
Okay, so America is basically very much part of the conflict. Also, I don't think I'm not underestimating Israel and its capacity and capabilities, but this level of precision striking cannot be done without American tech. This level.
Yeah, look, what the Israelis specialize in is they take American tech and they improve on it. See, they focus on subsystems. They focus on computer programs, waves, jamming and countermeasures, missiles and things like that. They don't make their own systems. They make their own subsystems. So, for example, they'll take a German submarine or a German ship and put their own radars and missiles on it. They will take, there are specific modifications to the F-35 sold to Israel. I'm going to send you a video which you can probably add to the description. It is amazing. So what happened was the Americans gave the source codes to the Israelis, and the Israelis modified it into a completely different aircraft, far superior to the American aircraft. And the Americans don't even know what to do now. They can't even deprogram it because it is self-defensive. The moment they try to deprogram it, it counteracts it is predictive. It is able to counteract anything the Americans try to do to it. And now the Americans are so. Why do you think the Americans are not giving anybody source codes and they're so pissed off?
अमेरिका बोल साला तुम चीटिंग करता है.
Cheating karta hai, total. So, the Israelis, they depend, they're a small country. They're only about 9 million people, out of which 1.5 million are Arabs. Now, they have limited industrial capacity, they have limited depth, so they depend on America for a lot of the supplies. But the rest of it is entirely them using their ingenuity and skill. See, when you are a small country, up against great odds, you keep coming up with innovation after innovation after innovation after innovation. And that is what they do. All their operations are intelligence driven. Imagine taking out the head of the Iranian military. Then within 4 or 5 hours, a new chief gets appointed and he gets taken out 3 days later. Right? So it can't be done without American equipment. Let us be very, very clear about that. And for all the Russia fanboys, look at what Russia has been able to do in 3.5 years in Ukraine. Their air force is completely absent from action. All they do is they go up in the air from Russian territory and launch missiles. Here you have Israeli planes flying over Tehran with absolute impunity. They're not even trying to hide themselves. That is the level of air superiority that they've achieved.
So I actually have two questions about this. Now, in terms of air superiority that you're talking about, so now how does one gauge this? Like, what are the different parameters about this? And maybe we can use Operation Sindoor as a comparative analysis also, where we have also achieved similar air superiority. Because from what I understand, हम पाकिस्तान को मारते थे और फिर बाद में reconnaissance drone भेजते थे फोटो लेने के लिए कि हाँ हमने तुझे मारा है, ये फोटो है, kind of a thing.
What we had was defensive air superiority because our planes didn't cross the border. But note, the Pakistanis couldn't stop a single one of those strikes from hitting their targets. Okay. You can argue that the Kerana Hills thing, which was a complete, it was just propaganda operation. That missile maybe failed, but all the other missiles hit their targets very well. What really scared them was Jacobabad hitting that command and control center, right? That was the real thing. They weren't able to enter Indian airspace. They weren't able to shoot down. They weren't able to harm a single military facility in India. They weren't able to harm a single airbase in India. They tried. They sure as hell tried. There is the video of the ballistic missile intercept over the Sirsa base, which houses the Sukhoi 30s. The ballistic missile was taken down by one of our own indigenous Akash. We achieved a different kind. We achieved a denial of attack. We achieved defensive air superiority, and we achieved absolute operational supremacy, which is we did not let their planes in, we did not let their drones or missiles or anything carry out any kind of damage within India, and we were able to carry out our offensive strikes with 100% success. Israel is very different. Now remember, we have a border where missile flight time of the BrahMos is about what? If it's fired from Delhi, it will maximum take about 7 minutes to land in, say, Abbottabad or wherever. But in Israel's case, they are flying over about 1,000 kilometers of hostile territory, then 200 kilometers of further Iranian hostile territory to enter Tehran. They're conducting this operation starting at about 1,100 kilometers, going up to 2,300 kilometers. That is longer than the length from the absolute north of India to Kanyakumari.
So now the second part. 2-3 very interesting developments that I was trying to observe was obviously having a base inside Iran, launching drones inside Iran, taking out Irani missiles inside Iran, so that you have lesser time, you can do the operation. Then these random car bombs, rockets being launched from inside Iran towards buildings. I mean, This level of organization cannot happen in a few weeks. How long have been these buggers planning?
So just to correct myself, apparently the distance between Leh and Kanyakumari is 2,800 kilometers. So this is like going from Leh to about Hyderabad. But they've been planning this for the last 6, 7, 8 months at least, minimum. I personally feel that they've been planning for this for years. And I'll tell you why. We did not, even their own public assessments, clearly in private, they went making their private assessments public. They went on telling everybody, we can't carry it out. At most, we can carry out a token strike and things like that. They went on convincing us that they couldn't carry out an attack like this for the longest period of time. Clearly, it was, making fools of all of us. And they have been working on the capability to do this. Now, look, what had happened was during the drone strikes in 2024 and the ballistic missile strikes in, I think it was October or November 2024 that Iran hurled at Israel, they were very upset that they didn't get the opportunity to hit them as hard as they wanted to. Clearly, some kind of intel has happened, or maybe it even wasn't. They just decided on the time to go, and they decided this was the best time and decided to go for it. There is no way in hell that this has been not in the works, in my estimation, in at least for about 2 to 3 years minimum. But it has required about 15 years worth of intelligence to build this up.
So if 15 years, so how do these things like happen in real time? Like, these are sleeper assets that are developed when things go south. Is that the modus operandi?
No. So the thing is, India has a very, we develop assets, then we disengage, like Morarji Desai did. Then develop assets again and then withdraw, like Gujarat did.
Morarji Desai, Inder Kumar Gujral, both, right?
Both, right? We did it in Balochistan and Doval withdrew. So never a good idea. They are like very clear. Intelligence is not dependent on friendliness and concessions. Intelligence is intelligence. It will be a constant thing. Now, what they do is, I suspect 15 years back, they had already made profiles of all these young officers. Anybody who got promoted above colonel would have been tracked in Tehran till the point they became brigadier general. So, for example, people like the Air Force chief who was killed on the first day, all the 20 Air Force chiefs were killed. The entire chain of Air Force command was killed on the first day itself. They would have been tracking them ever since these guys became wing commanders or squadron leaders or group captains, whatever, or their equivalent of that. And they know where they live. They know who their families are. They know what their cars are. They know where their houses are. They know where they go to, what tracks they take, which bus or train they take, which is the car driving them. They have built up this imagery for 15 years consistently, irrespective of government. Okay. And it is a very, so, what happens is when you have that much intelligence, for you to go ballistic, it just requires little bits more of intelligence. It's like when you've got the cake, all you have to do is put the icing on the cake. Right. Now, they have also clearly done a whole load of electronic intelligence over Tehran, where they can actually see, these are places where the Revolutionary Guard doesn't come, or this is the place where Revolutionary Guards check. So they'll go and bribe the Revolutionary Guards. They will go set up a drone base out there. I mean, imagine, boss, imagine if this were India. It is like, them setting up a base outside Gurgaon, you not knowing about it. And when we go to war, Gurgaon say you're firing short-range missiles into Palam Airport. Right? So they would find, near Palam Airport, there is Bijwasan, where there are lots of farms. Okay. I won't put it past them to have even bought a farm through a shell company, saying we're going to invest in you, sanctions busting, all that bullshit, and put all the missiles inside that farm. I mean, you saw the pager operation. They had planned it what? They bought the company 5 years in advance. And they placed the people inside Hezbollah to see to it that the person recommended that these pagers be bought. They planted the pager idea in Hezbollah's head. Understand that kind of psychological manipulation they're able to do. The entire task force set up by Ayatollah Khamenei to look into the compromise of the IRGC and Iranian state institutions, 8 out of the 20 people investigating turned out to be Mossad agents. And yeah, Ahmadinejad, the former president, has admitted to it. And the only reason the Iranians found out about it was these fellows finally defected. And then the Iranians realized that these guys were Israeli agents. So look at the level of infiltration they've done.
So what do you make of this guy who was their military head and now he is allegedly in Israel?
We don't know. He may not be. He might have been killed. That might just be, this thing. But it is not beyond the realm of possibility. And the Israelis have done this operation for a very long time. I think it was in 1969 or 70, something like that. They went to Iraq because they didn't have a MiG-21. They wanted to properly assess a MiG-21 because it had caused a lot of damage in the 67 war. They found an Assyrian Christian pilot in the Iraqi Air Force who felt he wasn't getting promoted because of his religion. They took his family out first and then they made him defect with his entire fighter aircraft to Israel. And they tested it for about 6 months to a year, and then they gifted it to the Americans so that they could also test it. So they do insane stuff like this.
Do you think the reason they are able to do this is not just political will? It is also some level of social and civilizational clarity that only comes through the reality of something that the recent history of the Holocaust.
I think, the fierceness comes from the history of the Holocaust. But how does that explain the collective intelligence of that country? See, you can have a will to resist, like Iran has a will to resist, but are they able to resist? No, right? So where does this come from? And I'm gonna tell you one thing that Amos Yadlin told me. Amos Yadlin was the guy who carried out the attack on the Iraqi reactor. He's a friend of mine in 1980, or was it 82 or 83? I forget now. And what he told me was, Golda Meir used to have this quip that after spending 40 years in the desert, Golda Meir hated Moses. Because she said after spending 40 years in the desert, you found the one place in the Middle East that doesn't have a single drop of oil. How could you be so stupid? Okay, she used to keep cribbing about it. And he said, he did it for a reason. We don't have oil or earth to drill, so we drill our minds. They invest in human beings. You can become a Israeli Air Force pilot without completing your formal education.
Now, how does that work?
They see if you're highly motivated and whatever. If you have the requisite skill set, they take you out. They say, we will finish your formal education. We'll give you all the degrees in the military. You come and start training.
So that's an interesting approach.
It's a very interesting approach. So they've got so many programs like this. They've got in business, they've got in technology. The moment you leave school, there is a unit called 8200, which is their top secret electronic intelligence unit. They go pick 19, 20, 21-year-olds from school. People who are problem students, who are, ADD, ADHD, whatever, things like that, who would all be considered, antisocial and whatnot. They pick them. They say, we're going to give you massive fucking challenges which you have no idea about. They train them in electronic warfare and electronic intelligence. And by the time they're 25 to 27, they have access to the most classified top secret technologies. They're allowed to tinker. Here, if a kid goes and breaks a TV set, I have this cousin who, now she's big, but when she was small, She was called a nightmare and whatever by her parents because she used to take every single video game, TV. In those days, TVs had to be kept on tables. They couldn't be wall mounted, big CRT cathode ray tube TVs. She
Yeah.
used to take a screwdriver, unscrew it, and not know how to put it back. Now, they value that. They see this is a kid who's so exploratory. They're going to thrive in a challenging environment. They teach them everything about electronic warfare. They are trained on the front lines of electronic warfare. They spend all their time studying because it's turned into an interactive experience. Our kids play video games. Their kids actually play war. They play electronic intelligence war. If you keep winning, video game tournaments and things, they see you've got this thing. Now, are you good for uh, are you able to multitask and deal with Elent? You'll be trained to be a fighter pilot. But these electronically inclined kids, now problem kids who unscrew radios, TVs, and mobile phones and all that crap, इधर हम थप्पड़ मारते हैं. Udhar they are cherished and celebrated. They're taken into Unit 8200. By 25-27, they are put out into the outside world saying get lost, unless they want to continue in that unit. And all those fellows go on to found unicorn companies, which is why after India, a country of 1.4 billion people, Israel has the second highest number of tech startups, a country of just 9 million people. Right? So they invest. This is what I keep telling you. Invest in human beings. Don't invest in platforms. See, if I give an auto driver a Rolls Royce, what is he going to do with it? On the other hand, if I train you to become the next, I don't know, Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, you will automatically buy a Rolls Royce if you deem fit. We invest in the Rolls Royce. We don't invest in the auto driver. Okay. Israel is all about human investment. And I've met some of these insane kids. They're all socially awkward at some level. They're downright rude sometimes. And you talk to them, they're not talking about any great increment in technology. What they're doing is that they're inventing small increments in technology. We went for a tech conference in early 2024. And I was like, bhai, tu kaun hai? You've just invented something that makes this circuit about 25% faster. But understand that comes in an environment where they've already made a circuit about 500% faster. And this guy's 25% is 525% compared to, well, 25% of 500 is what? 125%. So it's 625% compared to anything else outside in the world. And because they focus on subsystems, now remember, a plane takes 15-20 years to develop. A small chip or a circuit, say a new mobile phone. Apple keeps releasing a new mobile phone every year. So, your innovation rate is much quicker. You're looking at a gestation period of month, maximum maybe a year. Okay? So that technology is developing so fast. It now turns out that it was their investment in human beings plus their investment in subsystems and not whole systems, which is to say the computer that goes in the program that goes in the fighter and not developing the fighter itself. That turned out to be a fantastic investment. And they're small. So, they can do things in scale. This is why Singapore and Israel can do things in scale. We can't do that in India. With 1.4 billion people, I mean, the numbers are mind-boggling.
Okay, so 2-3 questions now about the future of Iran. Let's say, this is a regime change op. I don't believe that it is not a regime change op. It is a regime change op. Now, does the regime change really actively change? See, I'm not talking about the Indian perspective. And okay, we don't go into the history of whether the Shah of Iran, what he did from the 50s and the 70s, as far as Pakistan is concerned. That is all history. The Indian perspective is not being discussed. From the Iranian perspective, like when you meet diaspora Iranians here, right, in Canada at least, they are very much interested in this op. They are overwhelmingly in support of this op. They want Israelis to do it. So what does it do to the future? And can the Shah who is in exile actually survive this in the future? Like, how does he control society? And the mullahs are not going to go away. They are still going to be part of society, right?
Look, this Reza Pahlavi II is a clown. Okay. He left Iran when he was 19. He hasn't gone back. He doesn't know diddly squat about Iran anymore. He spent 19 years of his life in Tehran, and he spent the last 45 years of his life outside Tehran. Even his message to the Iranian people was sent in English. What the hell? See, a diaspora community. You look at the Indian diaspora, some of the loudest voices calling for Modi to be gotten rid of in India, to be sanctions, are Indians. Okay, the ones who support the government are very quiet. They don't open their mouths. It's the same with a lot of communities, Libyans, Iraqis, whatever. It is fantastic till it is not fantastic. Now understand, Iran, its entire polity has been wiped out over the last 30, 40 years. It never had a polity to begin with, because if it had a polity, you wouldn't have had the Iranian Revolution in the first place. The Shah was just as guilty of getting rid of his opponents the way this particular regime is. The Savak was very, very nasty, the Shah's secret police. Okay, now they went from, वो क्या कहते हैं, from frying pan to the fire, right? That is what they've done. Now, the last thing you want is a bunch of inexperienced emigres coming and thinking they can run a country of 90 million people that is multi-ethnic, multinational as Iran is. If you want to try it, go ahead and try it. Best of luck to you. It's not good for India, fine, but we're not discussing the Indian point of view. It's not good for Iran. I have doubts if this regime will collapse. It may collapse because, the thing about collapses is you will have these people who keep saying, oh, the USSR is going to collapse, USSR is going to collapse, it's not going to collapse, and then finally it collapses. There'll be people who say, oh, they won't make nuclear bombs, won't make nuclear bombs, and finally they make nuclear bombs. Then there are the other side who, will say they will make nuclear bombs, and they'll say, Dekha maine bola tha na. I told you so. These are like those Twitter astrologers who keep putting up predictions of the Queen's death every day for 100 tweets predicting the day of the Queen's death. And when the Queen died, they're like, oh my God, see, I got it right. Okay. I don't think people realize the extent of control that the regime has over Iran. At the same time, if the top leadership starts collapsing like 9 pins, there is a very high probability that it could collapse, which of course will be a disaster for India. That's a different matter. We have an interest in an isolated Iran. But Iran that collapses, is regime changed, is also not in Saudi Arabia's interest. It is not in Emirates' interest. Why? Because then Iran becomes your front line against Russia. Okay, which means all the money, investment, and everything start going to Iran, Saudi Arabia, Emirates, and everything become second-tier powers, which they were before 1979. Before 1979, people don't realize the Saudis would only get access to second-tier equipment. The Emiratis would get access to nothing. The moment Iran fell, the Americans started selling them all their first-tier equipment. Because the Shah used to veto all equipment to the Emiratis, Saudis, Omanis, Bahrainis, everything. Okay. This is natural. So nobody in that area has an interest in the regime collapsing except the Israelis, who will not have to deal with the consequences. And the Americans who, they love their freedom and democracy nonsense. But look what happened in Libya. Where is Libya today? Where is Syria today? Where is Iraq today? Where is Afghanistan today? How many mistakes is it going to take you to learn from? If you were to give me a clear plan, yes, this person is there who can take over. He has the loyalty of the Iranian people, or at least he can hold Iran together. Can you give me that guarantee? No, you can't. So, this is something you learn in diplomacy. In diplomacy, you never ask a question that you don't know the answer to. So, for example, if you and I we're not diplomats, but if you and I were a diplomat meeting, I will never ask you, Kushalmehra, are you black? I know the answer to it.
I am white.
You claim. So, it's assume it falls. We are not accounting for the level of radicalization. Baath Party, one of the things that idiot Paul Bremer did after he was appointed Viceroy of Iraq, he dismissed the Baath Party, like they did denazification in Germany. He thought he will do de-Baathification in Iraq. All the Baath guys who are the Muslim version of secularist, I don't know what that means. That's like your idiot friend on Pakistan, that Pakistan experience clown who claims to be a Marxist, Islamist Marxist. I don't know how you can be an Islamist Marxist, but oxymorons like that. They were Islamist secularists. They all became the core of Al Qaeda and ISIS. Imagine going from the Baath Party into ISIS and Al Qaeda. Right? That is what they did. Now, people don't understand how radicalized a lot of the youth in Iran are. They go by visuals from Tehran and Isfahan, which are, rich people, ultra modern people. It's like going in Bombay to Malabar Hills and thinking Malabar Hills is Bombay. In Delhi, it is like going to, APJ Abdul Kalam Marg or Jorbag and thinking, or Defense Colony and thinking that is Delhi. It is like going to Madras and going to Boat Club Road or Poise Garden and thinking that is Madras. It is not. So, all these videos you see, oh, Iran in 1978, girls were wearing short skirts. So what? The rest of the country were goddamn wearing full-on hijabs. You go into the Iranian countryside, you go outside Isfahan, you go outside Tehran. People are actually wearing full-on chadors because they believe in it. It's not that they're being forced. They are able to wear, just a dupatta over their head, but they don't. We are gravely underestimating the level of resistance, and a diaspora will always try to project its own view over the entire country. Best of luck. I mean, if they're going in for it, I hope they've thought things through. The issue is they won't have to pick up the broken shards. We will have to pick up the broken shards.
Yeah, but I remember talking to someone who ran away from Iran as a political prisoner. I'm not talking about Salman, it's another speaker. And we were looking at, atheism in Iran and many other polls that were done. Iran, it's quite serious. Like the level of religiosity has plummeted. So if that is the case, then,
Listen,
we cannot say what you're saying is accurate entirely.
Tehran is like a isosceles triangle. Okay, if you look at the shape of Tehran, it's like a isosceles triangle laid flat. The entire area by the mountains, Shemiran, Tajrish Niavaran, right up to Karaj is where all the posh people live. You go there, you don't have parties like that. You have nude parties, you have cocaine parties, uh, uh, you have women flashing their tits in the pool and things like that. In a certain part of Tehran, I'm sure they'll be thrilled. I'm sure they'll be atheist. In fact, unlike, say, Pakistanis, who the most liberal Pakistani, when I've offered them pork, they won't touch it. Iranians, all my friends from up there, Tajrish, Karaj, Niavaran, this thing, even from Isfahan, from the good parts of Isfahan, you offer them pork, they don't think twice about eating it. And they're like, oh, we're not Muslim. They're not Zoroastrian either, but we're not Muslim. Okay, I'm atheist, I don't believe in this, I'm spiritual, I do yoga and this and that. But then I want you to go look at mosque attendance in Tehran. In Iran, being gay would be less of a crime than being an atheist. I know people in Tehran who have come out to their parents and they were like, oh my God, thank God you're only gay. Thank God you didn't say you were an atheist. And it's not one person, it's been 2, 3 different people who have done that. The people who have had the guts to come out. Okay. So, congratulations if they think, it's always, you only look for things that reinforce. Of course, I'm reinforcing my own biases from my travels in Iran. And and so I'm just providing a counterpoint to what their beliefs are. If they believe that that is the future, congratulations to them.
Okay, well, that is something only time will tell. Donald Trump was just asked, and I heard his. Will
See,
you?
it's a question of time will tell. Nahi. This is what Veer Savarkar told Mohandas Karamchand. Mohandas Karamchand said, I am experimenting. I'm doing social experimentation. And Veer Savarkar said, listen, this is a country. This is not your private property to do social experiments with. You can't experiment with a country. So if they want to experiment, best of luck to them.
They are not. See, they believe it works. That's their. So America. I just heard a clip of Donald Trump while. I read the quote. I didn't hear the clip, but when he was asked, "Will you be striking Iran?" He said, "Maybe, maybe not." ये क्या गेम खेल रहा है क्या? वीडियो गेम खेलता है ये आदमी? ऐसे थोड़ी ना कोई जवाब देता है.
No, but ऐसे ही तो वो हमेशा जवाब देता है. He thinks it's all. What is the art of the deal?
Like, dude, Trump 2.0. I'm sorry, मैं तेरे से एग्री नहीं करता हूँ. मैं कभी भी ट्रम्प का फैन नहीं था, मगर यार ट्रम्प 2.0 has been a disaster on many parameters. Like, क्या बोल रहा है वो आदमी? क्या बोल रहा है? किसी को कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा है. He's like a troll now.
Yeah, he is, which is good. I think it's fun. For me, भाई मेरा business तब चलता है जब unpredictability हो. If things are predictable, I can't run my business. You understand?
I know.
Yeah. In my line of work, a 51% success rate is insane. A 70% success rate means you're God.
Okay, then okay, now we know that America, matlab, they love me not, ye ho raha hai. But have the Israelis considered all possible collateral damage that can come through this? What is the end game for Israel over here? Iran can't be nuclear. Fine. Regime change. Fine. What if the regime turns on them? Then the new regime, the new people who come,
which is almost guaranteed. See, they went in for Ayatollah Khomeini because he used to talk about human rights and shit like that. Okay, he believed, they all believed his bullshit that he wanted spirituality in religion, that this was it was killing people because it was an immoral government. He turned out to be worse than the Shah. At any given day, Savak was like kindergarten compared to what the Islamic secret police turned out to be. So this is one of those things where, how many times have I told you this? Don't trust individuals, trust institutions. I see no institutional plans in place. What are your institutional plans? Who are the people that are going to front that new government that has some kind of government experience? See, with Germany and Japan, there was a whole political class that had been suppressed, which were then, rehabilitated, which had been fairly democratic. Japan was losing many Japanese prime ministers. They actually had real elections in Japan. And they used to get killed every year or something like that in some attempted coup or whatever. Germany was a thriving democracy till 1932, 33. I don't know when that election was, 36, I forget now. Till Hitler comes to power. His whole complaint was that it was too democratic. So there was a whole class of people ready to take over government as it had been left off prior to the military dictatorships or the Nazi dictatorship, as the case was. Where are the people here? This is a government that has been in power for what, 40 years now? Yeah, 40 years, 45 years. And before that also was a regime that used to keep crushing its political opponents. For 100 years, they have not had democracy, bro. Where are your institutions? I will be pleasantly surprised if they manage to set up a functioning democracy. If you asked me to survey, if this survey was just Isfahan and Tehran and Mashhad, I would say democracy will work. If you start adding Qum, Shiraz, Kerman, Bandar Abbas, Chabahar, and places like that, I'll say, best of luck, man. There is a huge urban-rural difference. You see this in America as well, right? The Rust Belt versus the two coasts. That's not a difference of democracy. That's a difference of needs. But it's a difference of needs that makes you support different things.
But still, Iran can't have a nuclear weapon.
It can't have irrespective. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, full stop. Democracy, no democracy, Ayatollah continues, Shah comes back, Shah does not come back, a new democracy, Iran cannot have nuclear weapons, full stop.
Okay. Now I will, the last 10-15 minutes, because I know you have to go. And I've been incorporating people's comments and questions about this issue as I was talking to you. Now let us talk about our Indian perspective in all of this. So where, in your view, does India play its role in all of this? कल का वैसे मैं तेरे को G7 का एक बता देता हूँ. वो ट्रम्प की कॉल का मुझे मालूम था जब हुआ, वो बहुत थोड़ा बाद में आया. और एक्चुअली में क्या होने वाला था कि वो ज़ेलेंस्की को मिलने वाले थे प्रधानमंत्री जी, मगर ट्रम्प की कॉल का रिक्वेस्ट आई तो ज़ेलेंस्की को वेट करने का, तो ज़ेलेंस्की बाद में चले गया. तो मैं कोई फेक नहीं रहा हूँ, ये एक्चुअल में हुआ था. ज़ेलेंस्की की मीट थी, हमको प्रेस में, वो जो प्रेस का ईमेल आता है उसमें आया था, और मैं बोल रहा हूँ यार ये ज़ेलेंस्की की मीट ही नहीं हो रही है, ज़ेलेंस्की की मीट ही नहीं हो रही है. और फिर मेरे को किसी ने कोने से बताया, मैसेज किया अंदर से उधर से, क्या रे वो ट्रम्प का फोन आ गया, नहीं होने वाला है. ना ठीक है भाई, क्या है, ऐसे ही था. बट where do we play? See, because Iran is a strategic relationship for India. There are many aspects of it.
Highly overrated strategic relationship, because they never let us play the game we wanted to play through Chabahar. Chabahar is a dead investment.
Okay.
Every time we've tried to do things in Afghanistan through Chabahar, they have blocked us repeatedly, over and over and over again. Okay. Which is why, we're not so keen on engaging with them anymore. You understand? So every time they are sanctioned, they come to us saying, Farsi, you produced more Farsi literature for 400 years than Iran did. You are a crowning, Ayatollah Khamenei's favorite Farsi poet is Allama Iqbal. Do you know that? He stated it on the record. Yeah. Though he says sting in the tail, I don't think he understood the Farsi metaphor, not being a native speaker. वो sting in the tail बिच्छू की तरह भी है. But when sanctions were lifted, for that 4-year period when the JCPOA was signed, the Iran nuclear deal was signed till Trump came and negated it. They were like, Indians, who are you? You're dirty people. You're smelly. You stink. Go away. We don't want to have anything to do with you. All our projects in Chabahar came to a dead halt in that 4-year period. So, Iran with sanctions is no more cooperative, but Iran without sanctions is very uncooperative. Even with the mullahs in charge. Okay. So it is not enough. We need the Shia-Sunni conflict to continue. Let us be very clear about it. In Kashmir, the Shias, after the Pandits got kicked out, it was the Shias who were seen as the mukhbirs of the Indian state, the spies of the Indian state. Okay. And the Shias stayed completely out of the insurgency. There was only one Shia militant ever killed. The only act of Shia terrorism in India, and this in spite of the fact that Jinnah was a Shia and things like that. The Bhuttos are Shias, or were Shias. They're not Shias anymore, apparently, but they were. Very clear. We need that schism to continue. The Saudis, the Emiratis, the Iraqis, the Qataris, the Bahrainis, they all have an interest in the Shia-Sunni schism to continue. It is an institutional interest that all of us share. because it helps us play certain, it helps us justify certain investments we've made, number one. Number two, like I said, an Iran that is contained and isolated is a less obstructive Iran that is at least willing to engage. An Iran that is not isolated is a nightmare for us. May not be
So,
good for the Iranians, but it's very good for us. And I am India first.
but I don't know. I just think India's positioning has to be based on, and considering what Trump 2.0 is doing with us in this entire India Pakistan thing. But do you think it's quite obvious that we were requested to halt for a while is because they kind of wanted to hit Iran?
Since day one, I've been telling you it's because of Iran. Na?
Hmm.
पहले दिन ही मैंने तेरे से बोला था it was because of Iran.
So they told us कि थोड़ा इनको मारो कम.
Right. And you know, the thing is, today from what Vikram Misri said, if you read between the lines, what did he say? The Americans just called and said, you know, they're planning on hitting you big, this and that. Iran was left out of the conversation. But you tell me, why will we agree to just them calling us? Clearly, something else had been said to them. Na? So wait and watch. Now, do you think it is sheer coincidence that Asim Munir is in Washington meeting Trump for lunch?
Yeah.
Well, clearly not. Because they have nothing to learn after all the strike footage has come out. There is absolutely nothing for the Americans to learn in terms of air warfare from Asim Munir. He's clearly there to be told what is going to happen next and what Pakistan needs to do.
This is my reading. अमेरिका ने हमको कॉल किया होगा और हमको ये बोला होगा थोड़ी देर के लिए इनको मत मारो, हमको ईरान की मारनी है, प्लीज प्रिटी प्लीज. लास्ट पार्ट, प्लीज प्रिटी प्लीज. वो अमेरिका नहीं बोल रहा है कि हमने भीख मांगी है इंडिया से, इंडिया ने हम पे उपकार किया है.
Now listen, this is important. Trump and the entire administration lied about the talks that were meant to be held in Oman on the 15th. And they did it very deliberately, pretended it was going to go ahead. Why? To give the Israelis cover and to lull the Iranians into a false sense of security. Do you put it past Trump to have said he used trade sanctions, the threat of trade sanctions on India and Pakistan, to have also done the same thing?
अभी इतना क्लियर है. Now I understand. After Israel hit Iran, I was like, that is why it stopped. That is why it stopped. They need somewhere, some maneuvering area around. But
And
what
that
does it
is
say
why-
about
and that is
Pakistan?
why
They are siding with the Yahudi.
No, what does it say about? But see, that is why Vikram Misri said very clearly, Operation Sindoor is paused. He said that very, very clearly. Now, Pakistan is doing what it always does, which is, you know, hunting with the hounds and running with the hares. They're telling the Americans we will allow overflights and things. Not that the Americans really need them, but they will always see to it that there are backup options, diversion airfields, and things like that. So that when the bombing of eastern Iran starts, there will be diversion airfields for the Americans in case something happens and things like that. Sure, number one. Number two, they went and told some Iranian, because the Iranian general said it on TV, that if Israel uses even one nuclear bomb on you, the Pakistani nuclear arsenal is at your disposal. Now, Pakistan didn't deny it apparently. They refused to confirm or deny that they said that. And then you have Khawaja Asif. I sent you that tweet where he called Reshad Pelvi II a foreign whore and things like that. So he let the cat out of the bag that they're actually with the Yahudis, they are with the Americans against the Iranians, which he probably shouldn't have said.
Yeah,
he said the cat part out loud.
Yeah, but see, I think what the Pakistanis are hoping in this entire process is that they are cooperating with the Americans because they are hoping that then the Americans will protect them if India wants to start Operation Sindoor again. That's their calculation in my mind, that they will hope that the Americans will pressurize the Indians. What they don't understand is India may not do it just for America. India might have done it for Israel. Has anybody ever thought of that? Ki maybe this is us doing a favor to Israel in the entire process. Ki हाँ भाई तू मार उसको थोड़े दिन, इसको तो हम बाद में मार लेंगे, तू पहले इसको मार. It might be that.
It is most probably also that. But the request would have come from the Americans and not from the Israelis, because the Israelis are usually a bit shy to ask us about these things.
Yeah. No, but I think, and honestly, putting Sindoor on pause for this was not a bad thing in my view. People might disagree. I don't know what your views are. I ठीक है, इनको उसको मारने दो, उसके बाद हम इनको वापस मारेंगे.
Exactly. ठीक है ना? So it is, we haven't done, we've done the Israelis a favor, we've done the Americans a favor in a sense, a proxy favor. But look, the good thing is that everybody who needs to know we did them a favor, which is the Israelis and the Americans, know we did it, whatever, irrespective of the public rhetoric. And I think, they got a bit irritated with the public rhetoric, which is why the moment after the conversation happened, Vikram Misri came on TV and gave the press statement. Even now, the White House has not put out a readout of what happened in that conversation.
35
Normally,
minutes.
they are the ones who put it out within an hour or 2 hours. Even after about, 24 hours now, they've not put it out.
Yeah, but they have confirmed that conversation हुई है, क्योंकि Trump ने खुद बोल दिया had a conversation हुई है.
But not the fact that this thing happened.
Yeah, but I think it ठीक है, जो भी होएगा. Chal, I know you have to go. I'll make the closing remarks. तू जा. I'll make the closing
Any other
remarks.
questions?
Yeah, questions सारे मैंने incorporate कर लिए थे. बस Israel Iran के जो I was just taking the extracts out of the questions people have asked. Some of the questions were about ये jet वो jet. I mean वो jets के questions क्या करने हैं आंसर करके. तेरे को करने हैं तो मैं पूछ लेता हूँ.
क्या jet वो jet?
देख एक मतलब वही है कि कहाँ गया यार, एक मिनट. हाँ, one guest on this forum said we buy Su-57 and F-35 because we can't have all the eggs in one basket. Why upgrade 83?
We dealt with all of this in the last podcast. You remember?
Yeah.
We even put out a short about why not the F-35. Boss, you have the technologies in India. As long as you get the duffers at the DRDO out of the way. Look, there are lots of smart people in the DRDO. The problem is they all get promotions based on seniority, not based on work product. If you mobilize your private sector, I can guarantee you 2-3 saal mein, and you don't try to go after things like engines which you have this thing over. Take an underpowered engine like the Snecma M88 and run with it. Rolls-Royce is offering you the Eurojet engine. Go with it. Know what to harvest and know what to develop. See, Israel doesn't make mistakes because they know their own limitations. पहले खुद अपने कमजोरियों को समझो. We are very good at software development and things like that. We are not good at manufacturing. So deal with that. There are certain things which even manufacturing we're very good at. We can do. Do that. Don't say ki it has to be 100% Indian. Do what is right by you. You know what the Rolls-Royce offer right now is? If you commit to our engines, we will transfer the entire technology to India. We will include you in all our future development cycles. And it makes perfect sense for us to then develop a naval engine based on the air engine, which is what a naval engine essentially is. The LM2500 and the MT30 are essentially civilian airline engines repackaged into a naval propulsion format. It's the same jet turbine. Do that.
Yeah. अच्छा, एक last question, फिर तू जा. But if Iran's Islamist regime falls, Armenia will be wiped out completely by the Turks, and NATO will ignore that as well. How can America save Armenia save itself?
Look, we've discussed this several times. I don't know what to do with Armenia. They've painted themselves into a corner, very stupidly so. Pashinyan went and alienated the one ally they had in Russia. Okay, Russia wasn't the best ally. They're not. I mean, you can see they allowed, they're not helping Iran. Iran helped them in Ukraine, but they're not helping Iran. They allowed Assad to fall. Russia is not a good ally. But you had that one ally. Did you keep them in good humor? No. You threw away the one bird in hand for two in the bush, which was you believed all of Erdogan's assurances about his good offices and shit like that, and look what happened. And you vote for Pashinyan again and again and again. You know, there is a rule in the Middle East, no matter who wins, the Kurds always lose. I think that now needs to apply to the Armenians. No matter who wins, the Armenians also always lose. They're Kurds number 2. And they've done this to themselves. Their only supporter now in the West is France. What can France do? They're a landlocked country.
Got it. All right. ठीक है, चल तू जा. I'll wrap it up. Okay. Okay. 55 minutes.
And by the way, Iran is an Armenian ally. But with Iran getting pummeled, now there is a very high possibility that Azerbaijan is going to take that, what is it, the Zenzur corridor or something like that, which is that thin strip between the enclave of the Azeri enclave on the other side of Armenia. So best of luck.
Chal, tu ja. I'll wrap it up. Okay, chal. Bye. So I'll take this question before we wrap up. Do we have an equivalent program of CRF of USA Civil Reserve Air Fleet for our diaspora evacuation and strategic lift? It's not similar, but we do have an evacuation program for the diaspora. Don't worry about it. We do. Anyways, before we wrap up, guys, 2 things I want to say. I was at the G7. Yes, I was at both the media center in Banff and then obviously where the leaders were meeting. I was there too at Kananaskis. I'm going to be doing a live stream in the next 20 minutes where I'll share the entire details of this is the link to the live stream. I've added it to the live stream. If you guys want to join in the live stream in the next few minutes, I'll talk about the entire G7, what I saw, what I heard, what I was observing, what is the future of India-Canada relationship. It's going to be about India-Canada. I will share everything that I was quietly observing over there. Where can we go forward as far as India and Canada is concerned. Also, people who are watching this, if you have not registered for the United Against Extremism conference, which is going to happen this month, Sunday, June 29th, at the Paramount event space in Woodbridge, Ontario, do register right now. You see the QR code on the screen. You can register it right now. If you want the registration link, it is there, also there in the description of the podcast. So to all my Canadian followers who are watching this right now, go scan this QR code or click on the link in the description of the podcast and register. I'm going to wrap this session and go into the next session in the next half an hour. I hope all of you join me over there too. A lot of interesting stuff that is happening on the India-Canada front. But if you're not, once again, I want to request each and every one of you, like this video, subscribe to the Cārvāka podcast YouTube channel, leave a comment in the comment section. If you're an audio listener, do not forget to leave a rating in the audio platform. And if you really want to support the Cārvāka podcast, this podcast does not do ad reads. Look, me coming to the G7, everything costs money. Everything costs money, covering it, looking at these things. I don't have a company that pays this. All of it only happens through people who send me one-time donations, either through UPI in India, kushalmehra at icici, or through Interac Canada, kushalmehra81@gmail.com. Or you join the membership program where you give small monthly donations, or YouTube, or on Patreon. This is how I actually run this show, where I can go anywhere as an independent person doing commentary, no matter who gets hurt in the process. So I hope you guys do that. And also, once again, do join me on the next live stream too. I think you guys will enjoy what has happened in the G7. This is the image of the live stream, Modi at G7. So do join in. Until then, namaste. Take care. Bye-bye. See you next.